Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. I really appreciate you come on time. And I would like to introduce Mr. Colin. He is HSE manager working for a Technique company. So please welcome with me to Mr. Colin.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. First, let me introduce the company that we're actually working for. It's called TTS JV. It's a joint venture created from Technique FMC, which is a company that I've been working for now over 18 years. Technique Reunidas, which is from Spain, and Samsung Engineering. We are doing a project, the BAPCO modernization project. It's a massive project within BAPCO with a combined worth of over $4.8 billion. That is EPC share, plus an additional $1.3, $1.4 billion that BAPCO is managing within themselves. So overall, we're talking about a project that's a little over $6 billion. Okay. This project is a 54-month project. 54 months includes the front-end engineering and the detailed engineering. So when we look at the construction, we're looking at roughly 36 months of construction. 36 months. 36 months. This is 3 years. 3 years to build a massive project. Okay. So I sort of went through that. What is our goal? Okay. Currently, BAPCO is producing about 267 million barrels per day of products. Okay. With the modernization, we are going to upgrade the plant to do about 380,000 barrels per day. It doesn't seem like that much of an increase, but when you include all of the environmental and social that goes into this project, we're going to increase the environmental performance of the project, of the plant, the existing plant. I know many of you may know that around the surrounding areas in Citra, there's been many complaints about environmental issues, odors, etc. Okay, so part of this project is actually to increase the environmental performance. Okay, so you may not see a very large gap in difference of production, but what you will see is a massive increase in environmental production. Okay, next. Here's the overall layout of the project. So this area here is the existing BAPCO refinery. Our project looks like a very small section of the refinery, but when you look at the overall layout, we are affecting the main BAPCO refinery, the Citra tank farm. This is the Noga area, the wharf areas where we're actually adding additional 3 loading arms plus a bunch of additional work there. Within the project itself, we have broken this into sections because we are a joint venture. Okay, so from an engineering standpoint, consider the fact that we have 3 main operating centers. One in Seoul, Korea, one in Madrid, Spain, one in Rome, Italy. They're doing the detailed engineering. They are setting up all of the procurement and setting the construction philosophy. So you have 3 different companies in 3 completely different areas of the world that are setting up how this project is going to be run. This project has been financed by the IFC. This is International Fund of Banking. Okay, these folks have set a very stringent set of specifications on this project. Worker welfare, social, environmental monitoring, productivity. Most importantly, this is a lump sum turnkey project. Who could tell me what a lump sum turnkey project is?
Lump sum?
Lump sum. So one set of money, $4.5, $4.6 billion. Turnkey, like a car. When you purchase the car, it's turnkey. You've paid, maybe you still have to pay the bank, okay? But when you drive off, everything is working.
Yeah.
Okay? As a contractor, we have to turn this key. We have to start the plant.
Commissioning is within yours.
Yes, absolutely.
I think
the same specification of the product.
Say again?
Same specification of the product which what we want.
Yes. This is called the test run. Okay? So we have to pre-commission the plant, because before you start any plant, you have to make sure that it's oxygen free, you have to make sure that all the lines are clean, everything is ready for production. All the catalysts have been pre-treated, ready for production. Okay? This can be anywhere from a 4 to 6 month period. And then we have to operate the plant. Operating the plant is to make specification, to ensure that what we've built actually works the way it was supposed to. Okay? So this can be anywhere from 6, 8, 10, 12 months to ensure that what we've built you actually works the way that we requested, or DATCO has requested. Yes. How many construction workers will we need for this project? So your last major project in Bahrain was the Alba Train 2 project, right?
Yes.
Anyone can tell me what was the peak manpower on that project? 6,000 people. And that was somewhere around a $2 billion project, right?
Yes.
Okay. It was also, if I'm correct, cost plus type of project. So do we understand cost plus?
Yeah.
Cost plus means that you hire a contractor. Let's say you're building a house, okay, and you do it on cost plus basis. The contractor has a cost, okay. So let's say your house is at cost is $100,000, okay, but that's what it costs to build. The contractor that's going to build it says, yeah, but to do this job, I need to make some money, so I need 25% more, or I need 14% or 15% more. That contractor will work knowing that every day he's working, he's making 15% or 25%, whatever the contract deal was, above the cost of doing business. This is a major difference between lump sum turnkey. Lump sum turnkey is one cost.
Yeah.
You win, you lose, that's your problem. At the end of a lump sum turnkey project is what we call LDs. Liquidated damages. If you don't, as a contractor, we don't provide your project on time, on schedule, we pay you. We've guaranteed DATCO, we will finish this project in X amount of time, and if we don't do so, for every
Day or a
day,
month?
every day of lost production, how much money do you think we have to pay?
Around billion?
1 million. $1 million a day
Oh.
is the cost to TTSJV for every day of delay. So can you imagine if we miss the schedule by 30 days, how much do we have to pay? $30 million. Now, I'm speaking a lot about money. I'm speaking a lot about money because what you're going to see here is that HSE, safety, at the end of the day, sorry to tell you, it's not about saving people in this business. An EPC business, engineering, procurement, and construction, safety, a lot of times, unfortunately, is about money. It's about cost. It's about schedule and keeping schedule.
It looks like you have a big challenge raising the manpower because the actual is not meeting.
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. Very smart man here. This is what we call the manpower histogram. This is what we expected at the beginning. This is what we projected. Okay? So we're looking at over 20,000 people. 20,000 workers on this project. Alba, how many people?
Six.
Six. Okay. Sujit.
No, but if you add the power station as well, it will be 8.
8.
The put line was 6 and the power was 2,000.
Okay.
So 8.
So 8,000 maximum. Okay. Let me throw in another piece of information here. On a typical EPC project, there's what we call the turnover rate. Okay. You don't always keep one worker on the project for the entire life of the project. Okay. There's always a turnover of workers through the project. For a project like this, what we call a mega project, typical turnover rate is 4 to 1. So for every time we say that we have, in this case, 1,700 people in September, multiply that by 4. That's how many people came through the project. Currently, we're running about a 4.3% or a 4.3 ratio. So consider, we're looking at over 20,000 people at peak. This means that coming through the system, we're going to hit somewhere between 80 and 90,000 workers coming through this project. 90,000. I've worked and lived in many places in the world. 90,000 people is a small city. How do you maintain a safety culture when you have 90,000 people coming through your gate over the span of 3 years? It's always changing. There's always somebody new. Right now, we have 26 different nationalities working in our project. Why do I talk about nationalities? They all come. Language barriers, education, culture. Everyone comes with a different culture. Everyone comes with a different language.
And different behavior as well.
Different behaviors. Different concern about self-safety.
Experience, non-experience.
Different experiences. Different competency.
Different attitudes and aptitudes.
Absolutely, different attitudes and different aptitudes. So how do we maintain proactive, safe culture with this type of rapid change? It's not something that's easy. I'll show you some of the tools that we use, some of the drivers that we use to do this. First, a little video. Why are we here? What is our purpose? What is our purpose? Think about that. Take a look at this video. About a month and a half ago, I was at the HSE Global, and during one of the presentations, one of the gentlemen said that, now this is not something I fact-checked, but he asked the question, how many people are injured in the workplace on a daily basis? What number would you think? Now, globally. Throw out a number, what do you think?
1 million.
1 million. Not necessarily fatalities or lost time incidents, but just
It will be billions in this case.
billions.
Yeah,
The
because
number he threw out.
without counting recordable injuries, it's billions. If you count, for example, small factory or small country like Bahrain, it will be billions. But how many people are reporting? This is the case.
That's a very good point. I'm not certain if his information was correct or not. Like I said, I haven't fact checked. He said 2 million a day, per day. Now that does not take into account, like you said, countries, companies that are not reporting. And there are many. There are many. Even within my own company, I can guarantee that there are nicks, scratches, twists of ankles, occupational illnesses that are not reported. Okay, of course, we do our best to ensure that we report. All of our subcontractors report as much as possible. But when you consider an industry, especially in construction, where 15 years ago, I can tell you I was on a project in Jamnagar, Reliance. Any of you know that? Okay. How many people? How many fatalities were on the project? Do you remember? You know?
I don't have idea about, but I know in general. I work in Reliance.
I worked for Reliance myself. Okay. I got there during the commissioning phase of the project. And at that point, they had stopped counting. It was a project that was run by Bechtel from a construction standpoint. Okay. And I heard many different figures, anywhere from 50 fatalities to 200 fatalities. But in that day, life didn't mean much. I remember during the startup of the plant, we had a massive leak on a flange that was spewing out 1,000 degrees C flue gas. And we wanted to shut the plant down. And the general manager said, oh, wait a minute. If we put somebody in a fire retardant suit and put them on a hammer, can they get that flange sealed? Honestly, back then I was not in HSE, I was commissioning, and we said, yeah, but you'd probably drop out within 2 minutes just from the heat. And you know what the response was? Okay, well, let's line some people up and, you know, when they start falling off, and that's exactly what they did. We had a group of people lined up, all in fire retardant suits. They'd get up there, tighten on the flange, and just as they're about to fall off, pull him out, throw somebody else in, and we got the unit running. That was a roughly 2 million day production unit. Just one unit in the entire plant. We're talking about the largest refinery in the world. As of right now, I think Jamnagar Reliance is producing 1 million barrels a day. Something around there. This is all coming back to what I was mentioning before. Money. Okay? We all sit here. How many of you are in the safety business?
All of us.
Raise your hands. How many of you are in the safety business?
Directly and indirectly.
None of you. I beg to differ with all of you. You're all 100% wrong. Because safety is not a business. Construction is a business. Production is a business.
With due respect, yes. Now safety is a business as well. Unfortunately.
It's a business in the sense of companies like me, Bosch, who create a business for safety. But I guarantee you, okay, I guarantee you, go up against a project manager who's up against a deadline. the risk assessment. What is risk assessment, in your view?
Risk assessment is a methodology to assess the risk, and then we have to find out the controls, okay? And the basic purpose is how to mitigate, how to control the hazards. So that's
what is the end goal of risk assessment?
we have to avoid the accidents.
Identify
Identify the hazards and
Identify the hazard, what hazard?
For 3 reasons. We need risk assessment: moral, economic, and illegal.
You've got your NEBOSH, don't you? That is the pure NEBOSH response right there. Okay? Risk assessment?
Prevent losses.
Prevent losses?
As
What
low
losses?
as reasonable possible.
No, I like this answer. Prevent losses. What losses?
Losses, if I have an employee who's going to work somewhere and gets injured, that's a loss. I spend money on the employee, spend money on the people who can cover this person's place, and I have to pay compensations. And
Interesting. You come right back to the money.
Yes.
Risk versus gain. This is risk assessment. Risk versus gain. It's always risk versus gain. I told you that story about Jamnagar 15, 20 years ago, because back then the cost of lives was very little compared to the cost of production. So the risk versus gain was heavily weighted on the gain, on the finance. That has never changed in our business. It has never changed in our business. I guarantee you this. Look at salaries in the HSE business. 10 years ago, oh, you can be an HSE manager making thousands of dollars. Every single client now is squeezing the budget, squeezing the schedule, and what happens? I'm suffering, my company's suffering, because to find competent people who really know what they're doing, it costs. Will someone come to work for this project for 30% less than they were making 5 years ago? He's going to look around.
But that is will be the impact will be opposite, means if they hire people just a name, okay, with a proper certification or competency, so the project will be falling back to the ground. So the loss
there's
will
always been a chance, there is risk all the time.
Now, I like where you're going with that, because this actually folds right into what you were saying about safety being a business. Certification, with all due respect to IOSH, I myself, I'm grad IOSH and all this stuff, right? I've done that because it's a base requirement. Okay? But I can't tell you how many people I've interviewed, they have NIOSH, grad IOSH, OSHA, all of these certifications, and excuse me, don't know nothing. Don't actually have the experience of this business and how it works. That's the safety business. And my personal opinion, and I hope there's no one from NEBOSH here, that's a bunch of garbage. Nothing trumps experience. Nothing trumps experience. Okay, a piece of paper that you've received because you did an online course and you've gone and did a test, okay? I'm sorry, nothing trumps experience. How many of you have had to deal with a fatality, personally? Tell me your experience.
It's not a nice experience, but someone needs to deal with it. I'm sure that everybody knows over here, Gulf Air crash 2000, year 2000. I'm a diver, scuba diver. I went to the sea trying to reclaim the organs, the body parts, and all, put them in body bags and bring them up. That's one of the experiences. Other than other fatalities, I had to bring someone who had I'm sorry to say this, the head got in 2 pieces because the railway overhead crane squeezed between the beam and his head. So I had to bring him down from 20 meters up. Things like that.
Now, I'm sorry you've had to go through that. Let me double down on this question. How many of you have had to deal with a fatality that occurred based on a decision that you made, that you personally made, a risk assessment that you made, where you decided this was a risk worth taking because the gain made sense? I assume most of you here are in safety. Yes?
Yes.
So who makes that decision at the end of the day? Who puts the pressure to make that decision?
Operation department.
The company front line.
Company from client.
No, company front line, which is our supervisory staff, including foreman and charger, and the top of that's the BM, project managers.
Yes.
Simply we can say the area owner,
Yes.
where the activities going on.
In my company, what we call this is the line responsible.
Yeah.
Because there's a line of responsibility, right? As HSE, as BHSS or safety, however you want to put it, we're responsible for giving advice. But you're not actually responsible for production. You're not responsible for getting the job done. You're responsible to tell them how to do it safely. Okay? But at the end of the day, they make the decision.
But you do sign on the risk assessment.
Yes.
You bear some part of the bill.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You bear some part of the responsibility. But my question to you now is, when the risk versus the gain, we all do risk assessment in our lives. In this case, not signing is a risk of losing your job. Do you feel that pressure? We all feel it. I've been in that situation. I've been on many projects where I know that if I tell my project manager, no, you can't do this, he's going to do it anyway. And maybe my next project I won't have one, or I may need to go to another company. I've been with the same company now for 19 years. I'm that type of person. I'm very dedicated. I like to work with one company. I'm not one of these contractors that jumps from company to company. So I try to balance. And I've had some sleepless nights where I know that, oh, this is a risk. Is it an acceptable risk? Yes.
Maybe we'll reach to the same level that we have to think logically. Sorry to say that. Logically in hand of that if I did it, on the other hand, I'm not going to get my salary. So on one hand, I know the safety and what's the professionality. On the other hand, it's going to affect me. 1, 2, 3 reports, and I'm going to be removed. So I'm thinking logically. Sometimes I'm thinking in my kids. Sometimes I'm looking to my family first. Then, as he said, it's a safety, it's a business.
Yes.
Sometimes, yes, we have to look because we work in many and huge projects, and whenever it's get conflict, so they are uprising the production.
Yes, and I agree with you. And this is where the different competencies, different experiences, all come into play. Because I may have experienced more hazardous situations than you. Take, for instance, a Chinese gymnast who walks a tightrope, and this is his show. He walks that tightrope every day, and he's extremely experienced doing this. Doesn't even need the balancing rod, okay? And this is what this person does. And then there's another person from another country, he's never done it before. And you have to make the decision, okay, shall I let this person walk that tightrope or not? You make that decision based on that individual's experience level, that individual's level of competency. I might take the risk on the guy that's done it 100 times before and it was okay. But I might not take the risk, or definitely won't take the risk, on a person that's never done it before.
Yeah.
So every single day, every day in this business, we are taking risk. We are in the business of taking risk. What is the safest thing to do in construction? I asked you that question. What is the safest thing to do in construction?
Know the rest. Know the rest. With promotion.
It's actually something else.
Do nothing.
That's it right there.
Let the machine do it.
Nothing.
Yes.
Okay? But if we do nothing, are we in business? Are our companies in business? No, we go out of business. Okay, like I said before, we're not in a safety business, we're in construction business, we're in production, we're in operations, and we support our companies. And for our companies to be successful, we do this risk management. Risk versus gain. I guarantee you, sometimes those of you, when you get into a position where you're the last word, you will have some sleepless nights. You may even have some evenings where you have to be on the phone with attorneys, dealing with claims from past projects where, you know, an accident happened, and okay, maybe you did everything correctly, but there's always someone that will make a claim. Okay? So I said all of that to just try to explain that the safety business is not a business itself. Safety is here as part of the larger whole. And the larger whole is production, it's construction, it's whatever business that we're working for. And we have to be part of that business. We can't cut ourselves out of it. It's very easy to say, don't do it. I'm being safe. I'm not taking a risk. What's happening to your company then? In a project like this, an EPC project like this, which is a lump sum turnkey, where we have a finite budget, we have a finite schedule, what do we do to the risk profile of the project? When we create delays, we increase our risk profile. Because not only does the contractor have a finite budget, so does the subcontractor. That as an EPC contractor, we don't do construction. We hire subcontractors that know that job, and they do it. And we pay them a lump sum to do that job. They go above budget, they fall behind project, a bit behind schedule. What happens to them? They start losing money. Does anyone like to lose money?
No.
So what are they going to do? They want to make their schedule. So,
Violate.
what's that?
Violate.
Yeah. Shortcuts.
Not follow the procedures.
And you know what? A good subcontractor might not even take shortcuts. They might still try to do it the right way every time. But in order to do it the right way, they need to increase manpower. They need to increase equipment. Maybe they need to work 24 hours a day. The risk profile of working day shift in daylight is completely different than that of working night shift. Night shift, you throw in a whole lot of other risk in there. People are sleepy, maybe the lighting is not proper, all kinds of human risks are in there. So what have we done? We've increased the risk profile. So part of my job on this project, in all EPC projects, is working together with my project manager, with the construction managers, to keep the flow of work moving forward. Always moving forward. Because if we don't move forward, in 1 year from now, I could be faced, instead of 20,000 people, I could be faced with a peak of 30,000, working 24 hours a day. Do you think I'm going to get any sleep? I don't think so. Next slide. So how do we manage this situation? Okay. Now all of you are already in HSE, so we all know that every management system comprises of the people, looking at competencies, how well they do their job, looking at the assets. Mostly in our case, we're looking at the equipment to ensure that all the equipment is properly inspected and proper, so that no one is going to get injured based on a piece of faulty equipment. For instance, where we've installed tower cranes. What goes into installing a tower crane? I just did a project in Dubai. I was there for 2.5 years. In that 2.5 years, over 3 tower cranes toppled over. Not my project, thank God. What do you think the root cause was that? Was there?
competency?
Basically, it should be comes from first from the erection point of view. Once while erection, the tower crane, the assessments done by the technical teams for the foundation, and then for getting the inspection of the tower, and then feasibility about the movement of the tower crane. So it's all about these. These are the contributive factors.
Exactly. All of the engineering detail that
Yes.
goes into setting up the tower crane,
Yes.
the foundation,
Yes.
the studies with regards to high winds, etc. Okay. A lot of that sometimes they say, but you know, I use the same tower crane in this location in another country, so it should be okay. And they give you a copy and paste document from their last project. We need to get the project moving, right? So okay, it should be fine. It worked over there. It'll work here. But you're in a different country. You've got a different different foundation, different soil profile. Everything is different. So what worked there might not work here. Okay. Management systems, policies, procedures, commercial. Why is commercial in here?
As you say, basically, finally it will all come like business and the money. So commercial part is important.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Because you know what? If the bottom line for a subcontractor is that it's going to take me $100,000 to do this job, and I'm telling them that I want you to do it with all of these additional specifications from a safety standpoint, but do it at $95,000. What's going to happen? They will either skimp on safety or quality.
Yes.
We'll give you a cheap job. Okay. So commercial is a big part of HSE management systems. If we don't understand the commercial side of this business, we lose. Like I said before, doing a project on a reimbursable basis, which means that I'm getting paid no matter what, and I'll always make my 15%. I can stay here for 1 year, I can stay here for 10 years, I'm making my 15%, no problem. But when you're on a lump sum turnkey, you're restricted. And no company is going to come and do a job for you knowing that they're going to lose money. So commercial is very, very important here. Performance in every HSE management system, of course, we have to monitor the performance. So you always have key performance indicators, etc., that you check throughout the life of the project, both on the leading end and on the lagging end. Culture, leadership, communication, behaviors. This is a tangible that is very, very difficult to manage. Like I said, we have 26 different nationalities in this project, all coming from different places, all with different backgrounds, different levels of education, different levels of competency. How do we maintain one standard in order to have a project with zero harm? Next. TTSJV is a joint venture of Samsung, Técnicas Reunidas, and Technique FMC. We chose the Technique FMC HSE management system because of its maturity at the end of the day. Okay? How many of you can tell me about the Texas BP, Texas City incident that occurred? Anyone know about that?
There was some incident of Texas City. There was some spill of in refinery, and there was a great fire in 1944. Maybe in 1944.
About the shutdown, they didn't shut down the unit. They started the process. It was repairing of the pipeline, the high pressure, something like that.
There was a construction project inside of a live refinery. Okay? And they got to the point where it was time to start up one part of the refinery, the raffinating tower. When they started up, there was a leak. This leak actually ended up with some hydrocarbon at ground level. Nobody knows, even today, where the actual spark was, but there was a massive explosion. 14 people died, over 114 people injured. Similar to Piper Alpha, it was a checkpoint in safety. Everyone stopped and said, oh, how did this happen? But what's really interesting is about 2 years before that happened, BP had a gut feeling that their HSE culture, there was something not right. And they hired a company to do a set of surveys within that particular refinery. Because they had a history of little issues. Nothing so major, a lot of little issues. In this survey, they targeted questions towards the workers and questions towards the management. Questions towards the workers were such that if your management were to fail in schedule, in budget, or in safety, which do you think would be the worst? Which do you think would make them feel the worst? Or let me put it the other way. Which do you think they would not care about so much? Over 30% said, my management doesn't really care about safety. 30%. So if I were to cut this room in 3 parts, and you raise your hand and say, that many people, so let's see, 1, 2, 3. So this many people believe management doesn't care about safety. That's your perception. Earlier tonight I asked the question, if you notice this room is very neat, there's no garbage on the floor or anything like that. Okay. If you walked in this room and it was a complete mess, there was papers on the floor and everything, and a piece of paper fell out of your pocket, would you be inclined to pick it up and put it in the garbage?
Yes, because the room is neat.
Because the room is neat, but if it was the other way around, there's garbage everywhere, there's garbage on the floor, would you still pick it up?
For me, yes.
But for the average person, the perception of your surroundings, the perception of your surroundings creates a culture that allows you to do what you do. When you go to university, and your first day in university, you need to go to the canteen to have lunch. And you go into the canteen, does anyone give you instructions how to go about the canteen? What do you do?
Well, you just see others.
You see others, and you follow suit, right? Just follow the flow. So if everyone is, you notice that everyone's leaving their plate in a mess and walking away. Do you leave your plate and walk away? Yes. You follow the flow. You just said it, right? So this is about perception of management. The perception of management gives you the actual culture of the company. Do you think it's acceptable that 30% of your workforce think that you don't care about safety? Not acceptable. So anyway, this particular survey was done at that refinery, at BP, Texas, 2 years before this incident. After the incident, the CSB report said that there was a major problem with the overall HSE culture of that refinery. Process operators would just leave the plant, leave the panel, come back as they wanted to. Procedures were not followed. There was no disciplinary action. There was no safe culture. Contractors were allowed to do whatever they want, place their temporary construction facilities anywhere in the plant, regardless of whether or not it was close to vents or flares or anything like that. No problem. It took 14 deaths and 114 people injured to change the culture, or to make them think about changing the culture. Did BP truly change their culture?
Yes, now yes.
Now, yes? You sure?
No.
I'm thinking about Deep Horizon in the Gulf.
No.
Yeah.
Also BP.
Yes, BP. I went in 2012 for. I frequently work in Oman and in Pakistan for BP as a third-party inspector, and one accident happened because of my mistake, and I got that incident, and there was a very good feedback from them. Yes, they improve a lot.
Okay. I'll
As
take that.
compared to other industries, if we talk about other big names, yes, BP is the one who moved their culture. If we compare with Oxy or other companies, BP is number one in safety culture now.
Okay. I'll take that. I haven't worked with BP myself in a long time, so I won't say anything.
Even
but-
if you will say, if you will see some good standards, some British standards, BP person will work on them, and they put the standards straightforward right now. That's it.
Like I said, I haven't worked with BP in a long time, so I'll just take you on your word on that. So within Technique, we did the actual same, very similar survey. This is about 10 years ago. And we found out that 36% of our management thought that failing in safety was okay. They thought that if I failed in my own personal reputation, because I'm a failure as a project manager, that's more important, so I'm not going to fail. If I fail in schedule, that I can't take. If I fail in budget, no way. But if I fail in safety, I could live with that. If I fail in safety, I could live with that. That means if someone died on my project, I could live with that. If someone lost an arm, lost a leg, I could live with that. We took a good look and we mirrored ourselves to BP. And we said, as a company, we can't live with that. And we created a program called Pulse. When you think of the word pulse, what does it make you think of?
Pulse means life, you know. You have pulse, you are alive. You don't have
Yes.
pulse, you are dead.
Yes.
Heartbeats.
When you go for a physical exam, first thing they tell you to step on the scale, they check your weight. Then they have you sit down, they check your BP and your pulse rate. They're checking to see how healthy you are. This is the reason we created this program called Pulse, because we did a check on ourselves to see how healthy are we really. And we realized we were about to die. We were just one step away from that major incident. And what else did we do? How many of you understand a hypo incident, high potential incident? I'm sure you've all seen safety triangles. You all know the Heinrich triangle, okay? And every company keeps these statistics. In the last year, I've had one fatality, God forbid no, or I've had 10 lost time incidents, etc. How many were really keeping track of the hypo incidents? The high potential incidents that could have led to serious injury or fatality? Not just investigating them and sending out lessons learned, but keeping track of the actual numbers and realizing that those were just one step, one click away from being a fatality. So we've changed our safety pyramid and we've started tracking how many of these incidents that could have easily fallen up in this area. So here you see, this is actually from a couple of years ago, but we had one fatality, which, okay, for in that year we had over 400 million man hours globally, one fatality, frequency rate is not so bad, it's okay, so we're doing okay. But when you look at how many incidents could have been a fatality, over 90. We could have killed 90 people in that year.
We can say like, I think one near miss can cause directly, and it's not necessary to go one by one. We'll go from near miss to directly to fatality.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because any one of these incidents that could have been a near miss, or maybe it was a first aid, or whatever, very easily could have been a fatality.
Could jump.
Could have been. Almost there. How many of your companies are tracking those in this method?
We reported the actual severity, the severity and the consequence severity. We reported.
But are you looking at it from the standpoint that you've had 80, 90, 10, 15 that could have been 50, and putting it out there for your management to see it, for the people in charge? Because I guarantee you, the people that hold the money, the people that are running the projects, they see this. Oh, that's just like, oh, here's another flash report about another near miss that happened. Okay, yeah, something more serious could have happened, but it's just a flash report, so I'm not paying attention to that. But when you put it in the phrase that, no, in that year, we could have killed 15 people, it makes a big difference for the people paying the checks. So if I give you any advice, that's a good piece of advice right there. Okay? Place severe injuries and fatality potential in your safety pyramid. Put it there so people can actually see it. Because these numbers normally end up out here just as a blank number that no one pays attention to. Okay, yeah, you've had 54 near misses. Okay, so what? When you put it in here, they start realizing that any of these could have been something more serious. Next slide. So, I pretty much covered this already. Pulse for us is something that was created by Technique for Technique, and it's a program that we've developed in order to align the mindset of our own management. It's a series of trainings, a series of workshops, helping our top management consider the fact that they are directly responsible for the health and safety of every worker outside. All of you being in safety, it always seems that safety is something that works from the bottom up, right? Management, CEO, COO, they will set the motto, safety first, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. And then they step back, they hire the safety professional, and you guys go out and do your job. This program, from the CEO, COO down, all have had to attend all of these workshops, which in total is somewhere around 54 hours of workshop and work, understanding how they are perceived. Because again, the perception of management sets the actual climate and the culture.
Can we say it's like based on the training metrics that's mandatory for each position?
It's not so much a training matrix, it's a cultural learning. You've all been to safety classes, and it's sort of, okay, this is a procedure, this is what you have to do, this is what the company expects of you. If you go to a Pulse workshop, it teaches you about you. One of the tools that we utilize has been set up by a company called Discovery, which is actually a personality profile. And it tells you what type of person you are and how people will see you as a human being, as a person, how they will interact with you. And if you don't know how people see you and interact with you, how can you interact with them and show them that you're a leader from a safety standpoint? So we help our managers understand, okay, I know that there are days when you need to get the job done, but when you're trying to get the job done, you have to understand that this is what someone else is seeing. All they're seeing is someone pushing the job and not caring about safety. All they're seeing is someone considering the schedule and not about that person's health or safety, that person's livelihood, whether or not that person has enough time off to enjoy his life or not. This is more what the program is about. It's not really a training, it's more
discovering the personality of each person.
Exactly. Okay, and it also gives you a bit of insight. In fact, I said the word insight. The program is called Discovery Insights. And it gives you insights about your management style, your leadership style, and how you can make the changes, because we all have different personalities, and how you can make those changes how I deal with Ahmed may be different from how I need to deal with you. Maybe different from how I need to deal with you. Maybe I need to be firm with you. Maybe with Ahmed, if I'm firm, he thinks, I don't care about him, so I need to be a slightly different way. It's almost like dealing with your family. Everyone in your family, you need to deal with them a slightly different way. Some people will just automatically fight with you. Some people, you need to say, approach them in a softer manner. So this is what the program is
The
about.
challenges of culture. I mean languages, what we call all the challenges you have in your company, different nationalities, different personalities, so that we can help.
Yes. One of the photos that we show in that program is a picture of a lion looking at himself in a mirror. And the lion sees a pussycat. And the question there is, how do you see yourself? How do you see yourself? Are you a lion or are you a pussycat?
Depends upon the situation.
Okay. Now, that's easy because you know how you feel and what you think you're putting out. Flip that question around and ask yourself, how do people see me? That's not so easy. That's not so easy. Because you might think that you're getting across to what you want, and the other person isn't. So this, yes?
Which people?
Which people? We're always considering all of the people working within the line. So you have, let's say you're a manager. You have your superintendent. You have the laborer. You have all the levels of workers below you. You might relate to your superintendent because you've worked with him for 10 years. But when you walk outside in the site and there's 3 laborers and they watch you, and this guy's doing something unsafe, that guy's doing something unsafe, and you just walk by, how do they see you? Okay? So this is what the Pulse program is really about. It's about teaching our management to understand themselves so that they can then portray what's necessary in order to create the proper culture. Because at the bottom of it, the perception of management sets the climate. Within the Pulse program, of course, we focus on safety awareness. We do a lot of training to make our management understand what is safety, how it needs to be done, what are the procedures, what are all of the new specifications. I've discussed perceived HSE climate, because again, if they perceive, the workers perceive that no one cares about safety, why would they care? They won't, right? I'll walk into a room and I will go with the flow. I will do whatever everyone else is doing, okay? When you have a low perception of HSE climate, you end up with incidents. Incidents. And what comes from incidents? Occupational injuries, environmental impact, lost time, fatalities. Now there's one circle here I didn't touch. Transformational leadership. This is the main focus of Pulse. Transformational leadership means that, let me take this another direction. I'll ask you all to close your eyes. Just for a minute, I won't do anything freaky. Close your eyes. And
Close your
picture
eyes.
in your mind a leader.
Awesome.
Now this leader could be a mother, it could be a father, it could be your sports club coach. What makes that person a leader in your mind? Why did you follow what this person said? What was it about this person? What quality about this person that made you believe? Okay, now open your eyes and give me some qualities.
Basically, I see my perfection, the items what I'm feeling that it should be a perfect thing. So I saw perfection in my leader.
You saw perfection in your leader.
Perfection.
What makes perfection?
Perfections means it depends upon my exposure. Like for example, if I'm a professional, okay, and I do study the things and I have a work experience, so I just saw so many things which should be up to the mark or up to the standard. And the driving force which I see that it should come from the top to the bottom. So I saw those abilities and then the controls in that person. That he is the one who is driving all these things or who is providing all these things.
Okay, so
that makes
this person was knowledgeable.
Yes, the knowledge is there, the skills is there, the practical, the practicality is there, the logic is there, means everything, so he comes with the logic, and humility, always.
Humility,
Yeah.
okay, this is a good one. Anything else?
Same as a competent person.
Competent person.
He believed in me.
He believed in you. Anything else?
The leader I envision is somebody who cares for his people.
Cares for his people.
You should be the voice of people's aspiration.
The voice of the people's aspiration.
Yeah, like inspiring.
Calm down and solve the problems.
Very calm, understands how to speak and solve the problems. Okay?
On the other hand, you call it the trust.
Trust. This is a good one. Trust. Commitment. So this person was committed to make sure that you did the right thing and you felt as though you had that person's commitment. Anything else?
I mean, value for the other people same as us. At the same time, a leader is not itself a leader, he is a leader made by others. One day other people thought that he is the leader, then I am a leader only. Only thinking that I am a leader is not a leader.
So
commitment is also another thing. Commitment.
Commitment.
Yeah.
Focus. Focus.
Yes.
Interesting though. Out of all of those answers, I really didn't hear any technical knowledge. The leader was not someone who knew the procedure, who knew the latest policy, the latest standard.
Leadership is a human quality first.
Thank you. It's a human quality. So how do we be leaders in HSE? Is it not a human quality?
It's a human quality.
Transformational. When you become that leader from a human standpoint, and people believe that you care about them, not about my safety statistics, I care that you're not going to be hurt. For this moment right now, let's forget about what job needs to be done. My friend, what is uncomfortable about doing the job in the right way? How can I help you? What does that worker then feel?
Be careful.
That 1 minute of discussion with that worker can change that worker's perception. You change that worker's perception and he will work safely in that way. Maybe not on the next job or the next task or whatever, but at least in that moment he understood that he really cares about me. He's not caring about just getting the job done or meeting the schedule or the budget. He cared about whether or not I got injured doing it this way. And that's how we transform the safety culture. Transforming safety culture is transforming the workers' perception of management. When they realize that management truly cares about you as a worker, no matter where you come from, no matter what salary range you're in, we care about you as a human being. We want to make sure that you go home safely. You came here with 10 toes and 10 fingers. I want you to go home with 10 toes and 10 fingers. Next slide. So, every HSE management system, we have ways of setting them up. Every management system has procedures, policies, checklists, and documents, right? So, and this we all know. We all know about HSE management systems. Performance, we all know about setting up key performance indicators, lagging indicators, and everyone's checking those. But what is the most important thing in maintaining HSE climate? Is the transformational leadership. This all together creates the climate. Next.
Be example of others as well.
Stop right there. I'm going to ask everyone at this point, because I know I've been talking and everyone's sitting and everything, so please, can I get everyone to stand up? It's a little bit of a fun exercise, just to get everyone's blood going. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, okay? And I ask you to answer internally. No need to say the answer out loud, okay? Don't say the answer out loud because I don't know what you're guilty of and I don't want to know, okay? But when I'm finished answering these, asking these questions, if you have answered yes to any of these questions, at the end, I'll ask you to have a seat, okay? So, first question. Have you ever used your mobile phone when driving? Even if it was hands-free? Okay, don't sit down, don't give me the answer. We'll sit down at the end. Next. Have you ever crossed the road without looking both ways? Have you ever exceeded the speed limit? Have you ever walked up the stairs and not used the handrail? Next question. Have you ever forgotten to use correct PPE while conducting a task at work or even at home? Because you know, at home you should still wear your gloves, you should still wear your safety glasses if we really care about safety, right? Next. Have you ever gotten into a car and driven while under the influence? Not necessarily alcohol, even if you're taking prescription drugs. Many of the prescription drugs tell you you should not operate equipment when taking them. That should be all the questions. Check, click one more time, just to be sure. Okay, so if you answered yes to any of those questions, please have a seat.
In fact, we should leave the mic.
Anyone.
Can I say something here? Yes. To be honest, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, our time is over, 1 hour. If you give him 10 minutes, are you okay with that?
Yes. See how I can wrap this up in 10 minutes. I've had fun talking, so no worries. Next slide. What we just demonstrated is that there's a very big difference, and even in a room of safety professionals, between our intentions and our actions, okay? We all agree, we don't want anyone to be hurt, right? But what we know versus what we actually do, there's always a gap. Yes. And you know what? There's always a reason for it. We all decide that, I'm gonna speed up a little bit because I'm late for work. I'll break the rule because of this reason. I'll break the rule because of that reason. And we all make this excuse internally. A couple of years ago in the US, there was a big controversy where someone said that corporations are people too. But in this case, corporations, companies, EPC companies, are people too, because they do the exact same thing. There's a big difference between what they know they should do and what they actually do. Okay? Go ahead, I'll speed up on the slides a little bit. And you are the message. I can skip this.
You can go for a video after.
What's that?
You can go for a video.
Go for the video? Okay, go ahead.
Looks like rain again today. Dark clouds gather and fill the sky. Don't know how to talk to you, just know how to say goodbye. Would you like to call it private flight? I don't think so. Did you say it's like that? Go back where you came from. You're that late now.
when we show this video, we talk about children see, and they do. Okay. Of course, with our workers, our laborers on site, we're not really saying they're children. But at the end of the day, whatever climate that we set as management, they're just going to follow. No matter where you are, what country, I don't care whether you're in the Middle East or North America, South America, Asia, whatever climate the management sets, the workers will follow. There's no doubt about that. Just to leave you with a little bit something here, 2 tools that we use within our projects to help drive the cultural change that are also transformational changers, key on 2 different things: behavioral-based science and money. And money. Because money, as we said in the beginning, is one of the main motivators in this business. The Just Culture module is set up based on behavioral science. Okay. Many companies say that I use BBS, and they'll come up with all these metrics on what percentage safe that you have and everything, and they have many different systems. Okay. But at the end of the day, we see using a disciplinary action system based on BBS as a much stronger tool, because not every worker, we all agree that there's a difference between what we know and what we do, right? And that workers are going to do what they see us doing. Who believes that somebody wants to come in to a job place and get hurt? Who wants to come and lose an arm? Who wants to lose a leg? Who wants to die? Nobody. So there's a reason that they're taking that behavior. There's no such thing as an unsafe condition without the precursor of an unsafe behavior. So we always look at all of our observations and run it through a Just Culture module, in the sense that we look at what was done. Was it intended? If it was intended, the results were intended, it was a malevolent act or sabotage, that person immediately needs to be dismissed from site. Because this person is clearly unsafe and doesn't deserve to be here. It's a risk, right? But at the same time, when you run through the actual model, we've realized that there's a level of diminishing individual culpability. It's not that person's fault, because our management system failed. At some point, whether it was a matter of procedure or training, errors that were not caught previously, at some point there was a failure in our system. So whenever you're finding a lot of different observations, try to run them through this to understand, maybe my training is not working. Because it can't be this work. We can't just say that guy's dumb, this guy's dumb, that person's dumb, and just get rid of them. If you do that, at one point or another, one of those guys will end up being that fatality. And then you'll do a massive investigation only to find out that there was a problem with your training, which should have been fixed. Okay? So use all of the data that you're getting and run that data through this model. Always take another look at your HSE management system to understand where the gaps are in your system. And just because you've taken a look, ISO 9001, plan, do, act, check. And then you don't stop. You go back to the plan, do, act, check. And it's always this revolving circle of checking your system. Every single time you make a change to your system, you've got to go back through and make sure your plan was correct, that it's being done properly, that people are acting on the plan properly, and that you're checking to make sure that everything is working properly. Thanks. Now here's the money. About 8 years ago, we had a meeting and HSE managers in the companies discussed this with our management. We said, we are tired of being on projects where we have no power. We're begging people to do a job a certain way and it's not happening, and project management is just running ahead. We need some power in our hands. And luckily our company decided, okay, because of Pulse and everything else that was going on, we put an article in our contracts which places 5% of every subcontractor's net scope. So for instance, a subcontractor has a scope of work that might be $1 billion. 5% of that $1 billion is paid based on their implementation. It's implementation recognition. This is not a bonus. Some companies are giving bonuses. What are you giving a bonus for? Why give a company a bonus for doing what they should have done? This is their job. This is what they signed on to do. So I'm going to give you a bonus for not hurting somebody? Oh, good job, you didn't hurt somebody. But you weren't supposed to hurt somebody in the first place, right? On the other hand, we say, if you're not implementing your plan as you say you're going to implement it, we will take a deduction of your overall payment. Next. This deduction is based on your typical ISO audit, which looks at documentation, implementation, training, welfare, the whole gambit. So on a monthly basis, we do a full project safety index type of audit on each subcontractor. And it's broken, that 5% is broken into lesser percentages of each section. So for instance, I have a subcontractor who refuses to issue a proper procedure. How many times do you run through an entire project and no one cares about that procedure? Okay, forget about it, and then the project's finished and you actually never got a document that was proper. Well, that person is going to lose 20% of that overall payment. Once the project manager realizes, wait a minute, I'm losing money because my HSE manager didn't issue a procedure, immediately he jumps on that and gets it done. I'm losing money because when I'm not doing well in my training, I don't have a training room, I don't have a proper training staff. Oh no, let's get that done, because the cost of that is nothing compared to that 5%. Yes.
Do you mean that is a scorecard that you set for a contractor to follow up the procedure?
The scorecard is actually an ISO style audit. So when you go through an ISO audit, the first thing the auditor is going to do is, first, let me see your procedures. Okay, are your procedures compliant to the project specifications? Check, check, check. Yes. Oh, I found a non-compliance in X area. That area is worth 40% of this subject. You're not going to get that payment until you comply. I'm not saying you're going to lose the entire 5%, but in this case you might lose 0.5% of that 5 until you get that compliant. How many HSE managers or how many of you in HSE are always trying to push to get things done, but nobody really cares? This makes the project manager, the person holding the money, care. And it works. It really works. We take a little bit of everything into consideration. Incident management, safety observation cards, reporting. Are they reported? Are there cases when, in the last month, I know that there were cases you didn't report, or I caught you and you didn't report, so for this month, I'm not paying you. Next month, you better report. Audits, trading audits, weekly observations. We keep finding the same problem over and over and over again, and you're not fixing the problem. I'm not going to pay you. More importantly is, this is not just an HSE job. On a monthly basis, this is signed off, yes, by the HSE of both contractor and subcontractor, because they perform the audit, but they get the compliance of construction. Because from my point of view, my construction supervisor is responsible for that area he has to manage. And the subcontractor has to manage it. So now they take responsibility. When the project manager is angry because he's losing, for instance, I mean, not to throw money out there, but he's losing $150,000 this month because of this document, who's he going to go to? The HSE manager? HSE manager says, no, go to the construction supervisor. He signed it too, huh? He knows that these problems are out there. This gets it done.
Do you have incentive scheme for supervisor as well?
Say again?
Incentive scheme for supervisor?
Yes, we use an incentive scheme, we use a disciplinary scheme, but at the end of the day, the supervisors are at this level. The supervisor can only do what he can do with what he has been given. Who's doing the giving? The person who wants to see this payment. project managers, the project directors, the people really in charge of the money. I hate to come back to finance and money, but at the end of the day, this is what this business is about. Okay? Next one. So just wrapping it all up, these are the two tools that we utilize. Of course, as you said, incentive schemes. We have many other tools within our overall safety management program, but from driving cultural change, behavioral-based science, and money. These are two massive drivers. When used properly, can really drive it home. That's it. I tried to wrap it up there quickly at the end.
The question is open for you, gentlemen.
This is the system what you have given or you have provided for this coming project in Bahrain. So I just would like to hear from you any other accomplished or completed project with the same system implementation and the difference between the day first and the last day of the project, or the difference between the statistics of the country or of the project site, okay, and ending up with this model. So we just want to hear some.
Saudi Aramco SATOC project. Okay. I utilized the exact same system. For the technique packages, we had package 5A and package 2A. Combined, we did over 98 million man-hours without a lost time incident. One particular subcontractor lost over $500,000. Now, this money is not something that we keep as a savings. It's something that we reinvest into that particular subcontractor. I had a civil subcontractor, for instance, that was refusing using pieces of paper as scaffold tags. Yeah. Refusing to purchase scaffold tags, something so simple. So I took away $50,000 and I purchased, I can't remember how many actual scaffold tags. I won't call the name of the company, but yeah, it definitely worked on that project. Enoch project in the last 2 years in Dubai. Very similar situation. This scheme worked there. It's a scheme that we've been using now for over 8-10 years, and it works. One of the things that many contract managers will always ask is, how do you get a subcontractor to accept this? And it's very simple. Very, very simple. Rather than paying a bonus for what you should do, you question that subcontractor. So what you're telling me is that you don't plan on implementing. Because if you're planning on implementing, especially when they're ready to sign a contract, you're telling me that you're going to do the job the way that you're supposed to do the job, you should have no worries. This money is yours. We're not going to be unfair. When you sit at the negotiation table with a contractor, just like if you're going to build a house, and the contractor tells you that, yes, I'm going to build it as per your specification, and you tell that person, okay, but if you don't, I'm going to withdraw some money. Will he really say, no, I don't accept?
But he could raise his price, and when you deduct, but still he's not losing much because he's raised his price.
This is true, but at the end of the day, when you go through the bidding process and you have L1, L2, L3, go ahead, raise your price. You just priced yourself out of the bidding.
How do you ensure that systems are in place even after completion of the project? Because I think as a responsible contractor, you have to leave something behind for the companies. Like there may be maintenance companies, installation companies, or in order to give guarantee. How do you see that this continues after your project?
As a large EPC company, normally within our contract scope of work, there is a training package. For instance, here with Babco, we are training over 400 persons given to us by Babco to train in order to operate, maintain the project, the plant. Now, this is not just from operations. not just from electrical instrumentation, but also from a safety standpoint. So throughout the next 3 years, we will be training 400 people on how to maintain this project.
So do you leave any systems behind for them to follow or any kind of?
Once we've handed over the project, we've done the startup, we've turned the key, and everything is running, of course then it goes under BAPCO HSE management system, okay? But by that time, we've already trained all of the people involved in the project, how this operates, what our HSE management system is like within that time. We will go through a period when we get to commissioning, where we start doing handover to BAPCO, merging the systems, SIMOPS, okay? BAPCO system, our system, and making sure that there's a smooth handover before we leave.
Okay, last question.
Okay, a JV of 3 global players in the construction industry, and then another number of subcontractors, and 20 plus to 30 nationalities. Where do you derive the resources to build up your communication mix to reach everybody, to make the safety message reach everybody?
That's a really good question. Making the safety message reach everyone, at the end of the day, it comes through our training department. On this particular project, we've hired what we call the HSE communications engineer. As you go through onboarding onto the project, of course, you've got to go through safety induction, all the basic training. We maintain a training matrix where everyone has to go through X number of different trainings. Then we have all of our communication going out to the site, be it toolbox talks, group toolbox talks with everyone, mass toolbox talks. Then the next step is with our communication engineer, who is then taking whatever particular messages that we need to go out to the site at the site level. For instance, if we have an issue with man-machine interface, okay, and we need to go out and deal with those people that are just working with excavators, etc. This group will then go out on a daily basis to each different group, making sure that they touch base with hands-on training in the field. We maintain within each subcontractor a group. Each one has their own training coordinator, who then has a weekly meeting with our training coordinator. We are following on to that training coordinator all of the issues that we're having on a weekly basis. If you were to look at our weekly reporting, what you'll find is we track what were the main observations last week. Those main observations will be the topic of next week's Toolbox Talk. And we just continue like that. We're never going to kill every issue, because when you have a 4-to-1 turnover rate, you have 80,000, 90,000 people coming through. These issues will be cyclical. But whatever issues we saw last week, we're dealing with this week. The week before, next week, like this. So this is how we have to deal with the communication. Does that answer your question?
We'll give to Mahmoud, he's very proactive. Come on.
What are the challenges you interface when you selecting subcontractors, when you do the health and safety pre-qualification for the subcontractor? What are the challenges you interface?
The challenges that we face are, as with anything, what you see on paper is not what you get.
There is the main issue.
How can you solve?
We solve it with that tool that I just showed you. I guarantee you, I've never been on a project where on day one, we've had perfect performance. It's a wrap. And you teach them. You teach them. And especially in today's economy, where we're looking at the smaller and smaller and smaller subcontractors because they're cheaper. They can do it cheaper, right? But they've never done this job before. They've never worked in this sector before. We're bringing them in, and yeah, it's a challenge for us because they have a learning curve. I can't tell you. I mean, we've gone through situations where some of our subcontractors don't even know how to do a root cause analysis, don't know how to do an investigation, and we're sitting there teaching them. Now consider that we're the EPC, we're the main contractor. Right now I have 8 subcontractors. So I've got observations and incidents going on all over the place, and we have to teach each and every one of them, and at the same time, give our client a standard product. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's a lot of work and effort. But I guarantee you, what you see on paper is never what you're going to get. Not only for the subcontractor, even for the competency of HSE supervisors, of workers, of mechanics, whichever craft. Keep your eyes open, because whatever you see on paper is not what you're going to get.
By that, we end up our session. I would like to thank you, Colin, for a great presentation. I believe why we keep 20 minutes extra, because I've seen they enjoy your presentations.
Really, I appreciate it.
Your information which you deliver really valuable. We learn a lot. By that, we'd like to thank you as for bringing us this.